I just found out about grounding from my naturopath this year, and I started trying it out. Tremendous results almost immediately. But my question is, I live in the city. I live in Washington, D.C., and there's not a lot of places. It's like not as easy to ground, especially seasonally with the weather and stuff. So of
Right.
course, the first thing I did was go out and get the grounding mat, and I got some grounding shoes and all the gear. But I always wondered if there's like levels to this. Is it much more beneficial to do the real thing outside on the earth, or can you get close to as much benefits by using the mats and the shoes and the different grounding tools that there are out there? And then two, someone who's chronically inflamed, how long would this lifestyle kind of have to go, or how much grounding would they have to do to start to see some major relief? Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'll start with the last one first. Um, if you have pain in your body, you have inflammation, because pain is a byproduct of inflammation. And you can't have pain if you don't have inflammation. So what I often tell people is you need to ground until the pain stops, because when you get grounded and stay grounded, then it puts out the fire of inflammation, or reduces the inflammation. And then the immune system can go about repairing the damage, the oxidative stress and the damage in the area. And then and once that's all over, cleaned up with, the pain diminishes and disappears. Sometimes that's in as little as 5 minutes, especially with arthritic flares on the hands and joints and so on, if you use the patches. And the problem with all of this is, when I started out, I'm 78. So when I started on this, I was 54. And at that time, I'd spent 30 years in the communications industry. And prior to that, spent a lot of time in nature. And the thing that's interesting is we have created a lifestyle over the last 60 years. Let me preface, 60 years ago, 90% of the visits to a general practitioner were for an acute injury, childbirth, or infectious disease. Where today, 95% of all visits to a practitioner are for an inflammation-related health disorder. And so, but what's happened in this last 60 years, what started was we invented polymers and plastics in about 1959 or so. And then the first thing we did was make synthetic sole shoes. So for the first time, everybody could wear, have cheap, affordable shoes. You could wear them in the rain, it didn't matter, whatever. Where leather shoes, you had to protect them, take care of them, because they were very expensive. Oftentimes had to pass them down to your brothers. So anyhow, we have created a lifestyle now where it's, back in the 1950s, it was hard to get off the earth. We were living in the dirt. We were living in the yard. We were living outdoors, more so. Then television came along. We moved in the house. Other things, computer came along. And so we started migrating and spending more time indoors. And at the same time, everybody wears the synthetic sole shoes now. And so now to get back outdoors, because of our culture, to get back in touch with the earth, it's impractical in most of the country for at least half of the year, especially in DC and those areas I think you mentioned you were from. There's lots of snow, lots of cold. So that's why when I first started doing the research on this, I wasn't motivated to go create products or things you sleep on or things. But when we did our research studies, we had to develop mechanisms or methods to ground people while they were indoors. And we started out using the electrode patches, of course, and then we moved to mats, and then we moved to things that people could sleep on for weeks at a time. And in the process, then people started requesting the products, or the ground planes is what we used to call them. and the researchers, the subjects, and then their relatives, because it was simple. They had benefit, and it was something they could share, and was really beneficial. But so anyhow, to answer your question, it's really a challenge. We created the bed, the mat that you sleep on, because we figured it would be the easiest thing for people to incorporate into their lives, because you don't have to do anything extra. You put it on your bed one time, and then every night you come home, lay down and go to sleep just like you do normally. So there's no extra effort or no extra activity, or don't have to do anything extra, and you get lots of benefits. So, and then the other products, the little mat was more for, you could sit on it, stand on it, use it wherever. I hope I'm on track here a little bit. But anyhow, the products are essential if you have inflammation-related health disorders and you can't get outdoors. You can ground to the electrical ground. You can put in ground rods. You can use cold water plumbing. You can use various things in the home to make ground. But the thing we found that was the most effective was using the electrical ground, unless you want to put in a dedicated ground rod. I can go on for hours about all of these things. But anyhow, the point is, a lot of people, I live in California, and so it's easy. We don't have snow to speak of. And so I go barefoot most of the time, or wear a grounded shoe, or I'm sitting at a computer and I'm grounded mat on the floor and grounded mat here, and I sleep on a grounded mat. So I'm 78 years old and I'm grounded about 80% of the time. So it serves me well. But the question is, I don't necessarily like to promote products, because what the story here is more about what's happened to us. We accidentally lost our ground, our electrical ground, and now our immune system is compromised because it works with reactive oxygen species, which are electrically charged molecules. And if you can't ground them after an oxidative burst, then they'll go and oxidize healthy tissue, and that sets up that instigates the collateral damage that builds the fire, that creates the inflammation that the immune system is forever trying to put out, but it itself is creating because it produces reactive oxygen. But anyhow, the immune system doesn't know that we're no longer grounded. And when our bodies are grounded, we are flooded. Our bodies are flooded with free electrons. So you can't have inflammation when you're grounded. And I'll answer that one more later. So I hope I answered that question, or I hope, if not, bring me back on track and I will get it answered.
Very, very, very helpful, Clint. Thank you very much. And actually, we'll move on now to our next question, which is going to come in. I'm going to unmute Monty. Hi, Monty.
Hi, from Ontario again. Our first son, who had a cerebral palsy, but he died 2 years ago. We met a lady in an airport who told us once that we should place our son under the soil up to his neck. Was there any merit to that? And what do you think about mud packing?
I don't know anything about mud packing other than when we were kids and we would get stung by a bee. We would create a mud pack and put it on the bee sting or the mosquito bite, and it seemed to help.
Yeah, our son being placed in this. He told us to place our son in the soil.
Yeah. I'm having a little hard time understanding your language.
Yeah, Monty, there was a little break up there. If you could just say that one more time. You were saying something about your son in the soil? Oh, we lost Monty. Hang on, let me unmute Monty.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, our first son, he's now deceased though. He had cerebral palsy. So we were told by a lady to place him in the soil up to his neck,
Yes.
on occasions apparently. Was there any merit in placing him in the soil? And what kind of beneficial effect could that have had on his body?
I don't really know, but I can share with you that a lot of the indigenous cultures around the world, and I grew up in Montana next to the Cheyenne and Crow Indian tribes, reservations, And then there were other Indians around there too. But I remember one time a young girl had a scarlet fever, and they took her to see the docs and whatever, and there was not really much they could do for him back then, I guess. Anyhow, they took her home, and one of the elders dug a pit, maybe 6, 8 inches in the ground. I don't know, because I was much younger then. Size is different now. But anyhow, they put a little bit of straw in it. And so she was laying, they put her in her and put a blanket over the top of her. And then they took turns sitting by a fire outside, and they sat with her for about 3 or 4 days. And finally she broke fever or whatever and recovered and got up and started walking around and went back to normal. But this is not new, and this is not a unique incident. This is very common, especially through South America and a lot of cultures, was if they have chronic pain or chronic degenerative health issue, they bury them in the earth. And what it does, it floods the body with free electrons. You are negative. And in order to make this make sense is you have to know that when the immune system, when you have a pathogen or a damaged cell in your body, and the immune system, it's going to recognize it, it's going to send over a neutrophil, which is a white blood cell. And that white blood cell is it's kind of like jelly. It'll wrap around the pathogen or the damaged cell, and then it'll start releasing what we call reactive oxygen species, or free radicals, or radicals. They're not free, they're radicals at this point. And they're, the word radical means they have an electrical charge, meaning they can rip an electron, like an acid, they can rip an electron away from anything. And so what they do is the reactive oxygens rip the electrons away from the pathogen or the damaged cell, and that's how the immune system destroys it. And then normally throughout all of history and all time, we were naturally grounded, or we were in contact with the earth, or relatively speaking, we made contact with the earth. And our bodies were always negative. And negative means your body is charged and maintains the electrical potential of the earth. It's like when we ground anything, everything electrical is grounded. And the reason is because there's, if you can imagine this, a thin layer of electrons on the earth throughout the whole earth. And so when you touch it, then your body absorbs that and equalizes with the earth, because the earth is infinitely large and your body's small. So it's very simple for the body to equalize with it. And so at that point, if you have a pathogen, a neutrophil comes over, reduces it, and then if there's any remaining radicals left after the oxidative burst, then these free electrons from the earth your body's full of them, and they're everywhere. So they would neutralize these excess radicals instantly and prevent and protect adjacent cells from collateral damage. But once we started wearing shoes and insulating ourselves from the earth, then our bodies become hot. We're no longer grounded. Our bodies are positive. And so now if you have let's say you breathe in a pathogen, and the immune system sends a neutrophil cytokine over, and it oxidizes the pathogen. And so you don't have enough free electrons. So any remaining radicals will automatically start attacking other tissue in the area. And then that causes the immune system to send another one. And so you end up starting this fire. It's collateral damage. It's just like a fire. So the key to all of this is by burying somebody in the earth, or burying somebody in the sand at the beach, or just sitting down and putting your bare feet on the earth. But it's more effective, I think, when you can submerge a person in it, and back in those days anyway, because that was a major form of treatment. So that's what that's all about. So if this would be definitely a value to reduce inflammation and prevent inflammation in the body. Now, if there's other issues going on, You see, it all comes back to the premise that I've come to learn with grounding after 25 years of doing this research is, health is your most natural state. And if you don't have health, then something is interfering with your immune system's ability to maintain health. And to validate that, if you look at the animal kingdom, the coyote, the wolf, the dogs, all the large animals, the small animals, whatever, they don't have any of the modern inflammation-related health disorders that humans do. On the other hand, they don't manifest cancer, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, any of these things. But on the other hand, animals who live indoors, they will all manifest the similar health disorders as their owners, like diabetes, cancer, and the list goes on, everything you take a dog to a vet for. But anyhow, so the animals in the wild, cancer rarely exists, if ever. Animals in the home, 50% of them die from cancer, just like their owners. And so this is an environmental health disorder. We have changed our environment. We're no longer negative. We've lost our ground. And now we're living in very plush, nice homes. We have all the creature comforts, but our bodies are on fire. So anyhow, and all of these modern health disorders that we have, it's like when Ritger and the boys back at Boston Mass back in 2004, they came out with the articles on the cover of Time magazine. And they said, you don't have cancer, you don't have cardiovascular disease, you don't have all of these problems that you're treating. What you have is chronic inflammation. And that inflammation manifests differently in different people based on your genetics and based on your lifestyle, meaning what you eat, if you don't walk, that's going to be a problem. If you do exercise too much, that could be a problem. But anyhow, there's balances out there and everything. Good food is part of it, the type of food you eat. What goes on mentally in your life plays a big role in producing cortisol and stimulating the fight or flight system, so on. So there's lots of things that go on here. But anyhow, the main thing is when you ground the body, what you do is all these mechanisms and all these things that are taking place in the body, they're totally normal. But what's not normal now is we're no longer grounded. So as the immune system is trying to restore health and maintain health, there's not enough free electrons to put out to reduce the reactive oxygen that's left over from an oxidative burst. And then that is the underlying cause that promotes these health disorders.